So I was looking through Twitter and saw some things like with the fever that I was like, it's kind of a bit odd. Not the end of the world, not the biggest deal in the world, but I'm like, this is kind of interesting. Some of the questions that like people are being asked, and they obviously sent a survey out to the team or to fans of the team, and they were asking a bunch of questions like how you became a fan, some other stuff, but there are some interesting questions. Obviously, this was shared by the Ken Swift Twitter account, and let's take a look right here. Is there anything that would impact your Fever fandom? Caitlin Clark leaves the team is the first one. Caitlin Clark leaves the team. Obviously, that would affect it. Obviously. Loss of star players without adequate replacements. Potentially, letting Kelsey Mitchell walk for nothing. Consistent poor performance. Obviously, changes in team values. Less community involvement. Higher cost to follow the team. That is happening anyway, and it's not really affecting much. Less media coverage / game access. I mean, look, if you just got to get the right people in media coverage, and I stand by that. You got to just get the right people. You just got to get. That's all you have to do is get the right people. Like less Natalie Esquire. Heck, even if though she's a Sky fan, just get Queen Love Sports to everything. Just do that. Just do that. Bring Hunter Cruz down. Just get the right people. Just get the right people. And then obviously loss of media coverage / game access, too crowded at games. No, if your problem is that there's too many people at the games, then I'm sorry. Moving to a different city, that would obviously change things. Losing my connection to Indiana. But this is a really odd question, and it's an interesting one. Seeing what they're thinking about kind of the plan for the Fever. Because obviously we've heard about this. It says, to what extent do you agree the Indiana Fever has the potential to become America's WNBA team? And that is something we have read plenty of times. We've read it. So you can see here from Sports Illustrated. And from Grant Young and Sports Illustrated, the WNBA reportedly planning around the Fever as America's team. So they have big international plans for Caitlin Clark and the Fever. Like, they're talking about Caitlin Clark will play an overseas game. The WNBA is not oblivious, and according to sources, they'll eventually have a Fever game overseas. And where that will probably be, I think it's more than likely going to be somewhere in Europe. Not for the fact that the biggest draw is in Europe. Maybe money-wise, they go and put it in Dubai or something. But for her playing overseas, the reason why it's in Europe is because it's easier for people to get to. Yeah, obviously, if you're in Canada, it's not that difficult for Canadians to get down to America to watch a game. But if you're in Europe, you're flying 7 hours. And I'm in Ireland. I literally live in the closest country to America. That's not in mainland Europe, but just off mainland Europe. And it's still 7 hours for me to get to the closest place in America. It was 9 hours for me getting home from Minnesota the last time I was there. So that is something we do need to take into account. It's something we very much need to take into account. But this is here, while WNBA has played games outside the States, they've never played, the Dream played a preseason game against the GB in Manchester in 2011, another WNBA preseason game played in Mexico. Fever and Clark playing overseas would attract much more attention, which is big. And the fact that the Fever are talking about it, could we become America's team? The reality is that I do want to stand by this. It doesn't really matter if the fans say yes or no to this question. The fans choose who they support. And that's the one thing in the WNBA that I'm just confused about the media is the fans choose who they want to support. It doesn't matter who the media wants to push. The reason why Caitlin Clark, genuinely, the reason why Caitlin Clark, her growth was so big was because it was natural. The media was pushing Paige. The media was pushing South Carolina. The media was pushing UConn around that time. And even as early as 2021, people were like, no, Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark. They were shouting Caitlin Clark's name from the top of freaking buildings. So it's an interesting one to see, because clearly the Fever are they kind of know what they're doing. they don't know what to do, and they're asking these fans questions. I think they know what the answers are too. And I just find it interesting that they use this quote, and it's like, from inside, like obviously it's like, oh, the WNBA plans to do this. And this is something that we've talked about previously on the channel. Like this was December 23rd, so this was a little bit before Christmas. I'm not entirely sure. I may or may not have even made a video about that because I was so sick on December 23rd. But you've now got like the team itself talking about it, which I think is big. I really do. Like, I think it is important that the team, like, not even important, it's like, it shows that there's some validity to what is going on, to these conversations, that maybe it's not just the Fever kind of being on board with this. It could be like, again, the league talking to the Fever and the Fever trying to see what kind of works out. But it's going to be really interesting to see over the next 12 or so months. Is it next 12 months? Because even over the next, let's just say 6 months. Because when it comes to, like, 6 months from now is mid-July. So we'll know by mid-July, realistically, the All-Star break will have happened. It's around 6 months from now. We'll see the fandom and see what it is. We'll see the craziness of the Fever. We'll see if it's good. We'll see if things are good going well. We'll see if things are going badly. So we'll be able to see everything. And it's going to be really interesting to see if what they're planning on works. Because I do think the WNBA, if the WNBA somehow screw up their marketing when they know this year, whatever about last year, even though it was dumb at the time when they didn't think Caitlin Clark was going to be that good, there was at least some, like, you could at least say, like, okay, look, we thought she was going to be Kelsey Plum. We've seen what happened with Kelsey Plum in the past and we were wrong. You can at least use that excuse the first season. Obviously, for season 2, you can't. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the WNBA push, like, how they're going to push Caitlin, how they're going to push the Fever, how they're going to push the rivalries. If I'm the WNBA, I'm pushing the Caitlin Page rivalry just to stop all the race baiting nonsense. I'm pushing that rivalry, and I'm pushing an Angel versus Kiki Iriafen. Like, they're the rivalries I'm trying to push if I'm the league, but at the end of the day, the fans will have whatever rivalry they want. I'm pushing the Caitlin Sabrina rivalry, maybe. So, like, that's something that I'm doing if I'm them. Because, like, Angel's not nearly at the level to have an AJ Wilson rivalry. But I would push her with Kiki, because I think Kiki could be doing pretty well. And I think it'll be interesting to see what Angel does next year, because I think she's going to be playing further from the basket. So I don't think she's going to break that rebounding record, because we're seeing her work on the 3-ball. And if she's just shooting threes and they're playing with Camilla inside instead of Camilla outside, then it's going to be an interesting one to see. But anyway, yeah, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.